Hey guys, it's Jake from BRX Performance. Today I'm going to talk through the differences between velocity classes and an individualized throwing program. Overall, there are definitely benefits to each different type of training stimulus, and I'm going to talk through today what those are, what are some of the details between the two, and give you guys the best information to decide which is the best training route for you, whether it be this summer, this fall, or this upcoming off season. So I'll jump right in and I'll start with velocity classes. As someone who has ran both velocity classes in a travel ball setting and done individualized throwing programs, I can definitely see the differences between the two. On the velocity class side, you tend to see these run for a set time period, usually in the off season, and they start anywhere from, mid, early, late November and go until February or March. The benefit to this is that it gives an athlete a consistent schedule. They know for these 3 months and on these 2 or 3 days, I'm going to be going in and I'm going to be getting my work in, whether it be long toss, bullpens, lives, etc. Right? On the flip side, an individualized throwing program has a comprehensive macro cycle. It doesn't necessarily have a set start date and a set end date. It rolls throughout the entire year, potentially the entire, 2 years. It's a broad view of what do I need to focus on in this point in time and which type of adaptation do I need to make. So a little bit of differences there. In general, both can work. It just turns out that in general, an individualized throwing program has a bigger overview and a longer runway to see success rather than a short window to cram velocity work or pitch development work inside of. The second component I'm going to talk about is, training sizes in general, right? When you see a velocity class, it tends to be more group oriented with a lot of the individuals there doing the same thing, as I mentioned earlier. Similar drills, similar warm-up, similar focus of the day, whether that be a pull down, pen, live at-bats. Again, very valuable. But in an individualized throwing program, what you're doing day to day can be much different and much easier adjusted or more easily evolved, right? You can have a different schedule each week. You might do, some plyo velocity in the midweek for a couple months or for a couple weeks. You might do pull downs for a couple months or a couple weeks. You might spend the entire off season doing a mound phase if that's what your problem is. Again, it is not always going to be what the group is doing, but it'll be more specific to what you're trying to drive, right? When we talk about training stimulus, again, with a velocity class, the younger that you are as an athlete, your training age is smaller. So the first time you do pull downs, you might see a big jump, right? The first time you're introduced to, an environment with a bunch of kids that are around your same skill level, same ambition level, you might get a little bit of a boost in velocity. However, the next year, when you face that exact same stimulus that you faced the previous year, you may not get the exact same changes from it as you did the first time, right? That is one of the potential, pitfalls or downsides of a velocity class is that the stimulus tends to not be very variable, which in my opinion is one of the biggest benefits of an individualized throwing program. As I mentioned, you can easily change the stimulus week to week even, year over year easily, and you can choose which stimulus you target depending on that exact athlete, not what the group is looking at. So overall, early on in your training, in your development, a velocity class can be a great thing that you use to kind of boost you up, get you on a good throwing schedule. But the higher your goals are, the more ambition you have, the bigger your training age is, the more specific and the more targeted your training needs to be. I think that those are the biggest differences in general between a velocity class and an individualized throwing program is kind of the bridging the gap between what are my goals, what have I done in the past, and what do I need to do in the future in order to become the best baseball player that I can be. Overall, guys, I hope that helps. You guys can kind of see the differences between the two, and you guys can make the best informed decision on the ways that you should train. Like I said, this summer, this fall, or this off season.